Welcome to my cozy little corner of the internet. Today I want to talk about my 10 favorite books so far in my reading journey. Just like a little bit of a disclaimer, I feel like a lot of these books might be books that you've seen before. I definitely read a lot growing up, but my struggle was finishing books. And it wasn't until like maybe 3.5 years ago where I really started like focusing and it became like a true hobby for me. And so I think throughout the time, naturally, I read a lot of like BookTok, BookTube, like Darling books. I'm like finally kind of reaching that point in my journey where I'm definitely kind of branching out and finding books on my own, because I've read all the ones everyone's talked about, basically. So if this list seems very like familiar, that's why. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment, tell me what your favorite top 10 books are or your favorite book of all time, and let's jump right into it. Let's go. Okay, to start the official list with number 10, we have Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. This 10th spot used to be taken up by House of Cerulean Sea, also by TJ Klune, and I have no idea why it took me so long to get to this one. It instantly overtook it. Under the Whispering Door is a story about Wallace. He's a super serious workaholic who suddenly dies. He's very like Scrooge, Scott Calvin type like character. Ends up in a cozy tea shop run by like a very like relaxed, chill man who is known as a ferryman, and his whole like job is to basically be his like death therapist and help him go through the motions of moving on into the afterlife. The tea shop itself is so cozy, of yearning, and this book made me laugh multiple times. Like his humor kind of has like, it's very like Ronald Dahl humor to me. I don't know why his books in my head like always correlate, but I think that might be it. Like the like comedic elements are very like Ronald Dahl. The way that he like simultaneously like balances the juxtaposition of humor and like conversations around death and grieving and moving on is it's so skillful. It's like it's insane, like the way he's able to balance the two. I would definitely say like check your trigger warnings, because there's so much conversation around different types of deaths, like specifically suicide, and this is one of those books where it's like it's definitely a cozy atmosphere. Like you're getting the coziness of the tea shop and the humor and the kind of like whimsical feeling of it, but like I said, he balances that with like conversations around death. So if that's like not something you can handle, I would wait until you can handle it. But yeah, so in top 10 we have Under the Whispering Door. So in number 9, we actually have a series. And yeah, I'm kind of cheating putting whole series in a slot, but I kind of think about like completed series as like single stories in the way that I think of like a standalone, a single story. So the next one we have is Mistborn. So specifically The Final Empire, that's like what this one is called, but this is like the Mistborn series. Sometimes you see it as The Final Empire, sometimes you see it as Mistborn. This is the first book. I know everyone's obsessed with like the white covers, but like I love these hardback covers. I think they're so pretty to me. The premise of the story is essentially like if the Lord Ruler won, and then like thousands of years the whole world basically look like the Shadowland after Scar took over. that's kind of what like the atmosphere of this book makes me feel like it's very like dark and gritty and hopeless. It's following essentially like a band of thieves who decide for their heist that they want to take over from the Lord Ruler. It's specifically following Vin, who is an orphan who ends up joining them, and the magic system is so unique. You consume metals to like different people have different ways of like the way that the metal affects their body, and they all have like different powers. It's really cool and really like interesting. He has like a very strong, hard magic system, which is like what Brandon Sanderson is definitely known for. It's got the like heist if you like heist. It's got like the rebellion if you like rebellion. There is like a very small romance plot as well. In my opinion, the whole series is phenomenal. I like the second book the most. That's my favorite. This first book is phenomenal on its own as well. I know like in some fantasy series people feel like, oh, the first one's like okay and then the rest is good. No, this is good from the jump in my opinion. It's a very like approachable fantasy series as well. It's definitely good if you're like not used to reading high fantasy. You can definitely like get into that like very, very easily. He doesn't like convoluted, and it still kind of feels like our world, just with like a little extra spice in there. And then my favorite part I would have to say about like this entire series is like the banter within the like the little crew. Phenomenal. Like the banter for days. So yeah, that's number 9, Mistborn. So number 8 is historical fiction. This is definitely a like genre that I dip into quite a bit. This is currently my second favorite historical fiction book, and that is In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. This is set in the early 20th century during World War I in England. It is following 2 young men at an elite boarding school, and one of them basically goes off to war, essentially running away from his feelings from the other one. It starts as like a very intense private emotional bond between them, which is then tested due to the brutality of war. This definitely is like, you know, if you're gonna write a World War story in this time, like there's just so many, you gotta like do a unique twist. And the central like storyline of this story is this romance between these 2 men on this like backdrop of World War I, and both of them eventually having to go off to war. The queer yearning in this one as well is just unmatched, and her like lyrical prose, and specifically like the letters that are written between the 2 people, are some of the most like beautiful things that I've ever read. I need to like go back and do a full annotation, because I just did like a subtle annotation, just like, oh, I like that line, and then I just kind of like marked it on the side of the page. But I definitely need to do like a full in-depth one. If you love yearning with a dose of like historical fiction, and like you have not touched this book yet, touch this book, please. That is number 8, In Memoriam by Alex Quinn. Number 7 is Beartown by Fredrik Backman. So many people talk about this book, so I don't really feel like I need to go super in depth, but the man that Fredrik Backman is. This is a character-driven story about a very isolated, snowy, small town where like the boys' hockey team is like everything to this town. Everything around this town revolves around this boys' hockey team and whether they win or lose. And a single event triggers shockwaves through this entire town. In my opinion, like, what makes this book so great is like the way that he is able to talk about this subject that I can't really like talk about without exposing the entire book, but the way he's able to talk about this like very sensitive topic in a very fleshed out and respectful way, on top of like the way that he tells the story through multiple perspectives. And there are like perspectives where there are characters talking for like 2 paragraphs, but you like somehow, I don't know how he does it, but his like ability to talk about, or his ability to have these characters who are like only 2 paragraphs, but they feel fleshed out and they feel real, and they don't feel like, why are you just throwing this POV in there? I have no idea how he's able to do it, but it's insane. And I love how he's using all of these multiple perspectives to talk about this central event that happens in the story, and it kind of gives like different perspectives and moral dilemmas and just like the intricacies and the nuances of this particular topic. Definitely read your trigger warnings. This book can definitely trigger some people, so I highly recommend checking that out. It is probably gonna spoil the central plot of the book, but if you're very sensitive to things, I definitely would just go ahead and do that. I don't know how this man is capable of doing what this man is capable of doing. Like this book is not that long. It is a trilogy. I would just... Okay, so I can't have an opinion whether you should just read it as a standalone. I've chose to just read it as a standalone. I don't think I need more. I think this book does its job and does its job well, and that's really all I need from it. But yes, very beautiful. What he does with his character writing is so insane to me. And yeah, that is Beartown by Fredrik Backman. All right, number 5. I talked about this in my last video. I love this book. Water for Elephants by Sarah Green. I love this book. It is probably the oldest book on like this list, and not old as in like when it came out, but old as in like when I read this. I read this 10 years ago. I did the math on that for my last video, and yeah, no, it was really 10 years ago. I was 16 when I read this book, so that's weird, first of all. But I read this 10 years ago and absolutely loved everything about it. And then I reread it last month or the month before, because I was like, well, it's gonna be my favorite. I gotta make sure it still holds up, and it definitely still holds up. This is a story about a circus set during the like 1930s Great Depression era. It is following a man named Jake who is in school to be a veterinarian, and tragically his parents die. And this is in the beginning, so I'm not spoiling anything. It's also in the back of the book, but his parents die, and he is doing his final exam to become a vet, and he basically runs away, and he just hops on this random train, and it turns out to be a circus train. He ends up, through events, becoming the vet for the circus, and this is like one of the like toxic bad circuses, like the ones that we protest today. So like, trigger warning, there is some like animal cruelty in this. There's a lot of it in this. It is like not purposeless, like it's there for a reason. And what, in my opinion, makes this story so great, other than the atmosphere, because I do think like the way she wrote this circus to me is gorgeous. I love her descriptions of the circus, and like vintage 1930s type circus is my favorite setting and atmosphere. Like, I love it. This is the reason why I actually read Night Circus, which is more of like a dark, whimsical circus, which we'll get to. I just love this whole circus atmosphere, and the way that she writes it is just so gorgeous. And this is actually told in dual timeline. And so we have old man Jake, who is in an old folks home and is kind of struggling. He's like 90 or 93. And he's struggling with the fact that he's growing old, and so he's kind of revisiting in his head his time in the circus. And so when he's revisiting it and thinking about it, it jumps to the past and talks about that time. I love that it's not like the use of the past timeline isn't just there to like kind of just be thrown in and to give you like just to be thrown in. It's there to be a tool to talk about him growing old and him coming to terms with certain events in his life. And I think the way that he's like seamlessly like goes in and out of it, where no like chapter and no like scene feels useless, is phenomenal. There's a romance in this. I wouldn't say it's like it's definitely like a subplot or like the secondary plot, but I think like it's not the romance, in my opinion, that is the plot. It is like the events surrounding the romance that is the plot. It's beautiful. And also, if you haven't seen the movie with Robert Pattinson, they do change some stuff, but I do think it's very, very beautiful. Like, the movie itself looks very, very pretty, and it looks exactly how I thought it was gonna look in my head. They do change some events, but other than that, it doesn't really affect me all too much. That is Water for Elephants by Sarah Green. All right, so speaking of dark magical circus, number 5 is The Night Circus by Erin Sterling. This is, I know, in a lot of people's top like 5 books of all time, and I know it can get annoying hearing about this book all the time, but it can't not be on this list. Like, not for me. I would say the things that I love in books are like very strong atmosphere, very like lyrical writing, and kind of an over complicated, convoluting plot. I don't know what it is about like big brain books I love so much, but it just does something to my brain and I love it. Circus by Erin Morgenstern. If you don't know about this book, which if you've been on Book Talk for at any point in your life, you probably have. It's a richly atmospheric circus that travels, but it only appears for one night only. The circus serves as a setting for like a high stakes competition between 2 magicians. Weaves through like multiple perspectives and multiple, not timelines, but it like takes you through time using multiple perspectives to give this kind of like dream like story and quality to the story. It has a like subtle romance, which like I know some people critique the romance in this. I liked the subtlety of the romance and kind of how it took like the whole story to like kind of get your brain to wrap around, oh, there's a romance. I don't know, I really loved that. And then the kind of like central mystery of like what is going on here all comes together with this like overly convoluted, like no plot, just vibes, like super atmospheric circus. There's not much I can say about this book because it's just one of those books where like you kind of just have to experience it happening. Like, there's not very much you can say about this book. You just gotta go for the ride. But I'm just gonna keep repeating myself. Atmosphere. Like I said, I absolutely love the like 1930s circus, vintage circus atmosphere of Water for Elephants, but the like dark, whimsical atmosphere, like circus atmosphere in this is so strong, and it's also just so fun and so beautiful. Yeah, that is The Night Circus by Erin Sterling. All right, we have another series that is the Gentleman Bastard series by Scott Lynch. I know a lot of people feel like the series kind of like falls off it as it goes on, and this is also a not completed series, but it's one of those series where like we're not sure if it's ever gonna get completed, so I kind of just treat it as it's like own completed story, to be honest, and if it happens, it happens. Hopefully it happens, but we'll see. This is the whole trilogy, or the current trilogy, and you can definitely, if you're more comfortable, you just want to read Lies of Locke Lamora as a standalone, you could. I just fell in love with Locke. I fell in love with Locke Lamora, like him as a character, that I didn't want to let him go and I wanted more of him. I think that they're like very different as they go on. Like, this is more of like band of misfits, like ultimate heist. This is like seafaring adventure, and this is like found family theater. I love them all for their own reasons. Lies of Locke Lamora is following Locke as he's an orphan, and it's set kind of in this like grim, dark, almost like city that's like full of like water. Definitely like a grim, dark fantasy. It reminds me of like if Joe Abercrombie wrote like prose. Like it's like a Joe Abercrombie like prose, like super prose, like beautifully written story. There are some descriptions in this like book that you will never be able to unsee. Like there is a certain scene with a barrel that I will never be able to erase from my brain. Mora, who's orphaned in this like city, and he eventually gets given to this priest dude who is actually running a kind of crew of orphans called the Gentleman Bastard. And he runs like these like super heist basically, and he's training them in all these like different like disguises and like these different techniques to help them do these like big heists. This is one of the most like unique written timelines I think that I've read. It like jumps from past and present but then doesn't tell you when it's jumping, which I guess could be kind of confusing, but like once you kind of get your like feet into it, it's super unique and interesting the way that he does it. It weaves the timeline and it just makes for like a very unique adventure, I guess. The thing that I will say, like it's got that humor like Joe Abercrombie. It's got that like very dry British type humor, which I'm all for. I am all for. This book, it didn't make me cry, but I was close there. I was really close there. And the magic is kind of weird in this world. I would definitely say that the magic system is super subtle. Like I think it takes a while. Like when I was reading this, I was like, is this even fantasy? And then there was a part and you're like, oh, it is fantasy. It's more like the people who the story is following don't have the magic. It's like the magic is in the world, but it's not anything to do with the main characters. I feel like throughout the series that magic system gets played with a little bit more, but this first one, it's like very, very, very light, but it's still so good. Like it's still so phenomenal. I think the reason why it's so high up on this list is just how much I love Locke, but also I am a sucker for a bromance. And Locke and Jean's bromance is one of my favorite that I've ever read in fantasy. It's just it's so precious. I love them, and I love Locke. And yeah, and that is Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. So number 3, I actually don't own physically because I'm kind of still trying to decide which covers I want. They have these like newer covers that are very pretty, but I also wouldn't mind just having the old ones. And I also want to buy the whole thing at one time, and you know, it's expensive to get 3 very nice copies of books, so I don't currently own them, but that is the Poppy War. The Poppy War is like a dark, intense, like grim dark fantasy series that is evolving around like Chinese history and mythology. It follows Ren, who like lives in poverty and then rises through the ranks in a prestigious like military academy. She's confronted with like brutal war and like political intrigue and supernatural forces throughout the whole like events of the series. It's definitely a series that focuses on the realisticness or like the realism of war. It does not shy away from like the brutality that is war. There are some scenes that also live in my head rent-free that are very, very sad that just stay there. The way that she kind of chronicles Ren through this whole thing is one of my favorite things. She's definitely not a likable character. You're definitely not supposed to like her. She makes some decisions that you're like, huh, but then if you kind of think, you can see how it makes sense, but you're also like, should you be doing that? Untrack mind, and there's like, she is trying to do anything she can to do the means to her end. Magic system, which I feel like you get a little bit in book 1, but I feel like it really, really, really goes into more detail in the rest of the series, is evolving, like I said, revolving around like Chinese mythology and history. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's definitely like not an easy read, like I said, and I just love the unlikability but the realisticness of Ren's character. And that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. we have made it to top 2. These are my 2 favorite books of all time so far. And to get back into, like I said, R.F. Kuang, she graces this list twice, and that is Babel. This is chunky. She a big boy. And this is also like a big brain energy book. I have a lot of people who criticize this book for the way it's just like very overly convoluted and whatnot, and I love that. I love an overly convoluted storyline that has a reason for being overly convoluted, and that is this. This is a historical fantasy novel that is set in the 19th century England, kind of around the opium epidemic. It is set around this prestigious language college called Babel. And in the beginning you meet a orphaned boy. I love orphans, apparently. It's following an orphan boy who kind of gets picked up by this guy who works at the school. He's a professor at the school, and he realizes that he has an ability with language, which is what the magic system is set around. It is set around it. Like I said, it is a very overly complicated magic system that is surrounding language and translation. I think the way that she uses language and translation to talk about colonialism, colonization, this is definitely one of those books where, for me, the reason why it's so high up on the list is because it made me realize what you can do with fantasy. This is her ability to use her magic system to talk about identity and colonization and all of that stuff through fantasy and magic is so cool. This is definitely another one that's not escapism. This is not you want to disappear in a magical world. Okay, no, this is not that. This is definitely talking about real world things and real world issues. And it will make you angry, it will make you cry, it will make you very, very frustrated. But this, like I said, is one of those books where I was like, that, you can do that with fantasy. You don't have to just talk about wars and all of that stuff. You can do that with fantasy. And yeah, it just opened my eyes, and it's just very, very special place in my heart, for sure. We have made it to the top spot. I have been waiting to talk about this book. I love this book. So my number 1 spot of my current favorite book of all time, I will say I think that a lot of these books could maybe trade places depending on when you ask me, but my top spot will probably not change for a very, very long time. And that is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. I read this book very, very early this year. I think it was January, and any chance that I can talk about this book with somebody, I try to. I love this book to death. So this is a retelling of Charles Dickens' David Copperfield. Is a red-headed boy in poverty of Appalachian South, or rural Appalachian South. It is taking you through the story of his life very similarly in David Copperfield. It takes you through his life through poverty and addiction and the failing and unfortunately very realistic foster care system. The story is told is what gets me. Demon's voice is very, very strong, and he finds humor in things that I don't think I would be able to find humor in. He's got a very strong voice. He's very, very witty, but also very, very heartfelt. You definitely feel for Demon throughout this whole story, and that honestly is why this book is number 1. I would say one of my favorite things in literature is a strong voice, and the way she uses his voice to tell his story, and it takes you through like a lot of his life. I think it might end when he's like in his 30s, and it takes you like from the beginning of like when his mom was like pregnant with him. When he's like a kid, you have his like kid perspective on everything, and then as he gets older, you kind of get the perspective of his life on a lot of the same things, but as an adult, which I just think is written so phenomenally. Like, honestly, it won the Pulitzer Prize for a reason. Little random fun fact about this book: apparently Barbara Kingsolver was like visiting, I don't know if it was like his house or like, but it was like something to do with Charles Dickens, and she was visiting something to do with him, like it was like his house or something like that. And she claims that Charles Dickens's ghost came to her and told her that she needed to write this book. And honestly, if you write a book this phenomenal that wins a Pulitzer Prize, claim whatever you want to claim. Like, you know what? Sure. I'm glad that ghost came and told you to write this book, because I'm just so glad I have this in my life and that this book exists in this world. I would do anything for Daemon. I would do anything for Daemon. I love Daemon. But yeah, that is Daemon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. Alright, so that was my top 10 books currently of all time, and I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, any advice down below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.